What is your favorite word after stimulus? Money. And this one, grants. Oh, baby. Talk to me dirty like that. Coming up in this video, I'll have a lot of detail for you for the grants that Steve Mnuchin is offering. As Trump goes higher, more grants, more moolah, more Mnuchin, and really exciting news as we're near the finish line, and this money could be yours right away. This is Afternoons LALATE. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here, you're here, and your moolah is with Mnuchin, and we're almost getting the movement to the finish line. I really appreciate you for joining me because this is really the 11th hour. It's really exciting, great news. Go to the Fun channel, subscribe. 293,000 subscribers. We're 7,000 away from 300. Whoa, boy. Boy. What a celebration it's going to be when we get to 300,000. I don't know what we're going to do, but, you know, we're not going to have $12 ice cream. I mean, who eats $12 ice cream? It just probably tastes really tacky. Also like this video. In this video, I'm going to have some incredible details for you, which is money. Money. I'll be going over grants. I'll be going over the grants that are in Mnuchin's bill. It's important for you to understand where this money is, what is it, how it would land in your account. Then I'll be going over the issue of all this free money, whether you call it a grant or not, that is in Mnuchin's bill and also now available locally for you to get this week. Really exciting. Then I'll be going over Romney, a little bit more about that Romney bill for hazard pay. I'll be going over PPP. It's important to understand how much money you could be getting for PPP as an employee. And finally, beds. BEDS. I'm going to start with that one. Bad news coming out of Europe about ICU beds at full capacity. All right, let's get to the breaking news. Which is those beds? A new report from WHO says that Europeans' reaction to the coronavirus outbreak is not good, as some parts of Europe are now at full ICU capacity for beds. This is according to WHO's statement, World Health Organization, Friday. They say the situation is very concerning, and they report Europe is reporting 187 new cases per million people based upon a 7-day average compared to 162 on average in the United States per million. In Europe, which includes 27 European countries, it's now reporting nearly 100,000 new COVID cases a day, which is up 44% from a week ago. 44%. The resurgence is causing France to declare a public state of emergency. Germany and UK may announce a lockdown shortly. It's just not good. Next, over here in the United States, Treasury is dealing with backlash about PPP. And what's important for you to understand is that I try to get you money. I try to get you money everywhere. And ultimately, if you qualify for money and you don't get it, we worry about it. And this is a disconcerting report. A new report from the Democratic-led subcommittee that oversees the coronavirus found today that Steve Mnuchin's Treasury Department and SBA did not offer meaningful directives to lenders to ensure that women-owned businesses and minorities were appropriately served during the first stimulus package. Basically what it's saying is that a lot of people who qualified for first stimulus under the first stimulus package were pushed to the back of the bus because banks tailored their services to their existing customers and didn't help women and didn't help minorities. Well, if you watch my earlier recordings on this channel, I was very well vocalized in saying that PPP was a hot mess and that unless you had an existing relationship with these certain credit union banks, they were treating you like crap. As a result, small businesses that were truly in need of financial support during the economic crisis faced longer waits and more obstacles, said the congressional panel in a statement today. Now, as we get out of that really annoying and sad, disconcerting news, let's turn to some great news. And the great news as we start the afternoon is free money. Oh my God, free money. What's important to you to understand is when I go through each of these free money items, you can get as many of them as you can if you qualify for them. And ultimately, I'll tell you if one contradicts another that you can't get two at the same time. But if I don't, that it generally means you can get all of them. First, Steve Mnuchin's deal offer, which is 1.85-ish, heading to 2, has 2 grants in it that you may qualify for both. The first one is a hazard pay-ish grant. It's a CDC underwritten grant that is paid to frontline workers. It's a grant that we don't know the amount of, and we don't know how, we don't know the eligibility terms beyond the fact that it's for frontline workers, and it's underwritten by CDC, and it's a grant, meaning you don't repay it. It's free money. What's incredibly great news is that there is no hazard pay from the Republicans, but this functions as a hazard pay bill. The second grant program in Mnuchin's program is EIDL grant. Oh, baby, coming back. Talk dirty to me like that. EIDL grant, that great program that gave money to small independent business owners or independent contractors, is coming back. Now, I want to make it very clear, because sometimes when I say business, you're like, oh, I don't have, 55 employees. I'm just, hold up. If you are an Uber or Lyft driver, this applies to you. If you are a Airbnb operator, this applies to you. If you are a hairdresser on the side and you do a Schedule C, this applies to you. If you're a dog walker, if you're a babysitter, if you do any of these things that you could substantiate by a Schedule C tax return, this qualifies for you. Now, what I want to make very clear to you, because I haven't done this in previous videos, is that if you have not filed your 2019 tax return and you did have that business activity in 2019 and you didn't report it as a Schedule C, you reported it some other place, or didn't file a tax return altogether, make sure you get that on file, because these grants are coming. They're coming. And one of the most important things I always said back in the day when I did a lot of EIDL videos per day, I did them 2 or 3 per day, I said, hey, did you get your 2019 tax return on file? Did you say it correctly? Did you follow what's supposed to be said? Because ultimately, if you didn't file a tax return, you're not going to get a grant. And if you did do the activity, you need to declare it, and then you're teed up for the grant. All really great news. Next is a third grant. Not done with you yet, baby. The third grant comes in really a form of a payment, and this is one that comes to you by you applying. It comes from your employer. Let me explain what this one is. The $300 billion of state and local that Steve Mnuchin is offering the Temple of Doom is not for painting the Capitol building of the state of New York. It's not for mowing the lawn outside the governor's mansion for Gavin Newsom. Rather, as Steve Mnuchin said in the last 24 hours, it is for frontline workers. The money for $300 billion will be given to states who then in turn are to pay the money to frontline workers. And those frontline workers are getting the money, Mnuchin explains, because he doesn't want those frontline workers to be laid off because the state can't afford to pay you. He wants to give the money because it's cheaper to give the money that way than have them go on unemployment, and then the government has to pay for their unemployment. So you're going to get a third type of grant, that money that way. Boy, absolutely incredible. Okay, there's another type of grant. This type of grant is one that is in existence right now, despite whatever's happening with Mnuchin and Pelosi. And that grant is in your city, and it's in your state, and it all depends on where you live. This is that $150 billion from state and local that was dedicated on the first stimulus package that states are now spending the money, use or lose. And if you've watched my recordings, I talk about it every single day. It's still ramping up because the deadline to use or lose for states and cities and counties is coming up. So they're announcing new grants by the day. They're literally announcing grants by the day. And if you watched my video yesterday, I think it was the last video, I detailed a wonderfully kind, nice woman who's a senior who watches these videos and said, you know, LALATE, I heard what you said, and I looked for where I live in South Florida and found a rent grant for me and for myself. I'm a senior, I don't work, I'm on Social Security, and I found a rent grant. So what I did was I found it, I applied, and suddenly I realized today was the deadline that I applied. So I immediately told my girlfriends, told my neighbors, they all applied as well. That was several weeks ago. This week, she sent me back another message that said, LALATE, we all got our grants because of you. We all got grants because of you. Now, this is not unusual. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, since day one of this channel. I'm Kevin Lee, as an example. Sometimes I tell people exactly where the grant is. Sometimes I tell you how to find the grant. Kevin Lee, one of my original OG viewers of this channel, he was going through the EIDL loan process, wasn't getting approved. It was dragging on. He was having problems with unemployment assistance. It was dragging on. The money wasn't coming. He eventually got all of them, but everything was dragging. He wasn't getting it, and he needed help with rent. He was watching my broadcast, and so he saw laser focused where the grant programs were for rent in Texas. This was a few weeks ago. It's not recent. He found one. It went live. It was announced quietly one afternoon. He applied. He got the money, and it kept his family under a fine roof. Absolutely incredible, great news. That is the spirit of the Purple Power, using information to find the information yourself. Also use the delegates. Use the delegates. Please don't ask me to find a grant for you in upstate New York, in the city that's down the street from the town that's on the corner. It's just impossible for me to do it. The purpose of this channel is for me to tell you how to find things yourself. And ultimately, if you're not sophisticated with a computer, if you're not sophisticated with your cell phone, use the Purple Power delegates. And you know what? If there's no delegate in your state, just see if another delegate could simply look it up for you. It's a simple task, and your answer is almost on the way. All right, PPP, more money for you for PPP. And Romney, let me go over that as well. The Mnuchin plan also has another round of PPP. What's really good about this is that this would be money in your hand if you are that type of employee in a PPP environment. An example is a restaurant bus server, or a server or a host in a restaurant. Your restaurant employer, your boss, is about to go under. They're about to lose their restaurant. They can't make enough money from outside dining. Suddenly, when Mnuchin's plan gets approved, then the PPP program goes live again. Hundreds of billions of dollars will be available for your boss to go get. And as payroll protection says, and what it does, is the boss will then be able to have full salary payment to you for several months paid by the federal government. Again, more money for you. What's important to understand is that all these things work in unison. So for example, if you're sitting here and you're still getting unemployment assistance for, let's say, September, and the PPP comes in November and the boss brings you back, well, then you get PPP in November via the boss. You don't lose. It's not the fact that you got unemployment while you're unemployed does not cancel out the PPP. This can't work at the same time. Absolutely incredible, great news. Finally, Romney. Gotta push Mitt. I mean, you gotta push Mitt Romney. Standalone, Senate, Republican, hazard pay bill. It's absolutely categorically incredible, and I've seen you do it. And, you know, the reason why I want you to push Mitt Romney is the following. It's important to understand this. What's going to happen, potentially, is that everything is going to get very messy and very screwy. There comes that accent, screwy. Very screwy in 18 days from now. And in 18 days from now, you literally may have forces going left and right and up and down and say, oh, how about my bill? How about my bill? How about my bill? Well, there's a Mitt Romney bill there, and that needs to be merged into all this hot mess. I don't want that narrative of that great Mitt Romney bill for hazard pay that pays you hazard pay if you worked as an essential worker during the pandemic all the way up to the present be lost, because ultimately it needs to be put into all this mess as it potentially gets messier in a couple weeks if we drag on. Let me answer some of your incredible questions from yesterday, and boy, they were great. Coming up next on McConnell versus Trump, I will go over that increase of your SSDI, Social Security, and Railroad benefits. I know you've been asking about it, so stay tuned for that coming up in 30 minutes. Kamisha, a lot of people aren't eligible for grants, and the only money they can get is from stimulus. Not true. Not true. And what I want to make very clear, because I haven't said this in a long time, is that this channel is to help everyone. So ultimately, if you watch something, you're like, well, I'm only this doesn't help me. Understand that I'm here to help a lot of people with a lot of different situations. So please be respectful of everyone and don't only think about your situation, because ultimately it may help someone else. Just like how I helped a senior in South Florida. I mean, it was a senior rent grant. Someone would say, well, I'm not a senior, that doesn't help me. Well, it helped 5 people who are seniors who absolutely need that money. So let's all work as a team, not against each other. That's what Congress does. Linda, I'm tweeting Trump. Rodney, they need to stop playing politics. Paul Gomez, we need $2,000 a month. Jeff Marriott, vote, vote, vote. That's our true power. Walter L.A., just like Elvis, saying a little less and a little more action. Georgianne, how much longer? Kathy, you know they're watching and listening. They're not going to miss what's being said. This is regards to Mnuchin, Trump, watching this broadcast, and Pelosi probably watches as well. Back in the day, Javita Carranza clearly watched this channel for EIDL, because it was just, it would come up in discussions when people call into Tier 2. It's like, oh, that, yeah. So, but it's good. I mean, you want them to hear what we're talking about. That's why you got to keep on tweeting. I mean, here, the helicopter, Mitch's helicopter is coming from me right now, is, Charles Gettings, why can't Trump stop playing games? Timmy Coleman, hey, LALATE, great to be here. Is there any way we can override Pelosi, bypass her, and get a deal done? You can if House members sort of, step up, but they haven't stepped up. Keenan, folks are greedy. Joanne, they need to stop playing nonsense. Mike, they need a utilities grant to pay water and bill and light bills and gas. They do. That's in Mnuchin's plan. I don't talk about it every single day. That's the rent grant. The rent grant is in Mnuchin's plan. I didn't mention that as this video as well, but it is in Mnuchin's plan. Brandon Lewis, don't let perfect stay in the way of good. Wolf Blitzer verbally smacks Pelosi. Could this be our way? Amen. You can't have perfect when it comes to a bill. Virginia, I believe Nancy won't budge. We don't care what Nancy's going to do. Ultimately, Nancy will budge once the backlash from America really sets in. But that would probably happen when the president goes to 2, not at 1.8. Ernie, I thought this was going to be COVID-19, not for raises for Nancy and her big friends. That's what this bill has become. The vast majority of Nancy Pelosi's bill is big raises for big business. Cash flow, the founders of this country would be pissed. Yeah, gotta agree with that. Coming up next is that video you absolutely have to watch, because a lot of you have been actually sending me DMs, and I'm like, I recorded it yesterday, but guess what? I'm gonna bring it back again, because it's a question that a lot of people are asking. Those benefits, how much are your benefits gonna raise? What is this new bill? How's this gonna work? So stay tuned for that as well. Go to the friend's channel, subscribe. Trying to reach 300,000 subscribers. We're 7,000 away. Let's do it. 7,000 away. That's all that we are. Back in the day, we would do 5,000 subscribers a day. Now it's slowing down because, it's the winter months, but it's starting to be the winter months. But let's get it going. 7,000 away. Also like this video. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay valid.